Okay, guys, welcome back to another episode of Rotten Reviews. On this episode, I take a look at the 2016 film Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. It has a 28% on the tomato meter and a 63% on the audience score. Is that rotten? Well, according to Rotten Tomatoes, this film is not rotten. It's very enjoyable. On the contrary opinion, and this is going to be a contrary episode of Rotten Reviews, I'm going to foist my opinion on everybody that this is in fact a movie that deserves to be rotten. Like Batman, or excuse me, like The Man of Steel, also by Zack Snyder. You know, what could be worse? Zack Snyder did Man of Steel. He gave us a Man of Steel that's certainly not Superman. It's his weird impersonation of Superman that fails. Too long and boring. I did a rotten review on it. You might want to check that one out first. But this is like the part 2 in the series from Zack Snyder's greatest hits, so to speak. What could be worse than messing up Superman? Well, letting the same director mess up Superman and then mess up Batman too together, and just kind of slam his Batman and Superman action figures together. Oh, and with his other hand, he happens to grab the Wonder Woman action figure and slam that together too. So it's like a child director playing with superhero action figures, and they are just the action figures of superheroes. They aren't actually the superheroes that we know. And, you know, I've bagged on Zack Snyder for what he did in Man of Steel, and I'm going to continue to do so here. It's all his fault. So, fanboys out there, I know there's a lot of them that will agree with me, but there's certainly a hell of a lot more that say that I'm all washed up and crazy, and that, you know, this is Zack Snyder Superman, Man of Steel is the Superman we've always needed, and Superman v Batman or vice versa is just so awesome and incredible. Well, I'm sorry, but in this contrary and rotten review episode, I'm going to be looking at only the audience scores of 3 stars or lower. I'm not going to entertain fanboys with their 5 and 4-star reviews. I'm not going to waste my time. There's no point to it. They're obviously living on a different planet. I want to prove that this is just like Man of Steel, only worse, because now Zack Snyder screws up Batman on top of it. So let's take a look at the audience reviews, and we have one from 22 hours ago, 2.5 stars. Enough about it is already said, blah. Blah, I'll take that as a review. Enough about it is already said. Well, I disagree on that, because you see, this is still the debate out there. This will become the debate on many YouTube channels and forums. If you simply take a contrarian opinion to Zack Snyder's version of Batman or Superman, you'll start all kinds of arguments out there. Lots of little Civil War battles will start. And so I think it's still relevant. And apparently people say not enough has been said. And so we're going to continue. December 10th, 2019, 3 stars. I wished Batman v Superman should be about Batman v Superman. I wished WB stopped forcing so much stuff so they can keep up with the MCU. WB should slow down, take time, and plan. I do love Ben Affleck's Batman. He is great, a live-action version of the best comic book arcs ever, The Dark Knight Returns. I love Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I loved seeing the Trinity together. Doomsday should have been saved for another film. I have to admit, I don't like Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor. Well, I'll agree with them on this. Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was certainly the worst part about this film. It could have worked, but it didn't. Eisenberg just kind of channels his, you know, weird impersonation of Mark Zuckerberg, only put a little bit more evil and a little bit more billionaire scheming evil into it. But yeah, it's just like an evil version of Mark Zuckerberg, and he's going to be the big threat to Superman by producing Doomsday. Doomsday, it's obvious Doomsday was only here to take Superman out of the picture so that they could have, you know, some movies wherein Superman wasn't there to just ruin everything. And what I mean by that is the problem of Superman in himself. when you have a comic book franchise that has to have Superman, you're always looking at ways of getting rid of Superman one way or the other, or at least temporarily in the span of a movie, so that the rest of the movie plot can unfold. Because otherwise, having like a godlike superhero present, it makes it pretty difficult to write anything with real suspense. Yeah, there's just that problem. And so Doomsday was likely just brought in to get Superman out of the way so that we could get, the Justice League movie and have some kind of logical tension going on. Well, we know that failed too, but that's for another episode of Rotten Reviews. I'm just going to stick to Batman v Superman because there's plenty of bad stuff to be found here. Not dragging, dragging it further into the future with Justice League. That's a whole other rotten thing to talk about. 5 stars 4 days ago. I'm not going to read it. So let's continue on through all these 4 and 5 star reviews. Here's a 3 star from 6 days ago. This is not the movie you were hoping for. There is barely any action. The story is slow and full of plot holes. Jesse Eisenberg was miscast as Lex Luthor, and the actual battle has a terrible ending. Although Ben Affleck really did sell it as Batman, and Gal Gadot was excellent as Wonder Woman, I disagree. I think Ben Affleck was the worst possible choice of Batman. And what I mean by that is he's not necessarily exactly the worst choice for Batman in the costume of Batman. He looks okay. No, I mean he's the worst possible choice for his portrayal of Wayne, of Bruce Wayne. Bruce Wayne, when I see Ben Affleck playing Bruce Wayne, I'm sorry. I'd rather just have Christian Bale. In a Batman suit, he's fine, but he just doesn't seem believable to me as Bruce Wayne. He's just got too much baggage from other films. He's got like the aspect of, he's Ben Affleck is just overpowering as himself, Ben Affleck. I can't take him serious as Bruce Wayne. It just doesn't look right to me. It doesn't sound right. But it's not the only problem with this film. Superman's not Superman. He's the holdover version from Man of Steel, so that's the bigger flaw here. And Wonder Woman is kind of just thrown in to be here. And we didn't get her in her own movie as of this film. So I don't know. I just disagree that Ben Affleck brings anything as Bruce Wayne. In the Batsuit, he's fine. So there's that. 3 stars. Took me years to see this movie, and I see why I was in a rush. Yeah, that's kind of sarcasm. I suppose there's a lot of people that just didn't care to see this, or they caught it when it was out on cable. They certainly didn't rush to the theater to see this, and I didn't either. I saw Man of Steel in the theater, and I was very disappointed, as I've told on that Rotten Review. This one I didn't bother. I didn't even see it when it came out on DVD. I actually waited until it showed up. I think it showed up on some screen that was playing somewhere. I visited somebody and they just had this on their satellite. It was playing. So it might have been Showtime or HBO or something. And that's where I first saw this because I wasn't even going to spend money to rent the DVD. There was no point. After what I saw in Man of Steel, I had no interest in this. Especially since I knew about the famous, Martha scene in which, it's pretty contrived, the story of this, on how you get Batman v Superman to begin with. And then they stop fighting each other and make friends just because they both discover that their moms are both named Martha. That's literally what happens, and it's completely, really stupid. But yeah, just the whole reason why they were fighting each other to begin with was contrived. It was just a series of misunderstanding, coincidence, and a little bit of help by Eisenberg's Lex Luthor, but it's completely stupid, and how it was resolved is completely stupid. And Doomsday at the end, it was dark and chaotic, and like I forgot about, at the end of this, after I watched this for the first time, I actually forgot that Superman was even killed. But that's what happened, but I had forgotten about that. lot of just unremarkable stuff in this movie. Didn't work for me at all. And so I'm going to continue to read the reviews that might agree with me. 2 stars, November 29th, 2019. Justice League Setup Movie is a more accurate title. Yeah, this was done just to get Superman out of the way to set up the Justice League movie. Justice League movie, everybody I knew in the real world that went to the theater to see it was very disappointed and had nothing good to say about it. And later when I watched Justice League, I agreed with them. There wasn't anything there. But it had different flaws than this movie, worse flaws. Let's continue on. 3 stars, November, not English. 1 star, November 2019. Batman v Superman is a long, drawn-out trailer for the Justice League movie that promises a spectacular battle between two of the most popular heroes, but ultimately falls short of this. The actual battle is underwhelming and short. The only positive comment I can make about this film is Batman's scene in the warehouse. However, he is massively underused in the final fight and is reduced to running away. Overall, this movie is extremely disappointing and wasted a lot of potential. Well, we kind of had only ourselves to blame. Going into a movie called Batman v Superman, while that might sound like a cool title, when you put some thought into it, can Batman really fight Superman? And for example, if they actually fought each other to the death, who would win? How could you make a really great movie on this in a franchise and expect us to not guess what would happen, but yet at the same time be satisfied and have tension and build up to a climax and it all be believable in the context of it? And you kind of knew, putting some thought into this, that it was a waste, that it wouldn't be good. And then if you had seen Man of Steel first, and then you went into this, you kind of knew you were going to be disappointed, I think. And that's why I didn't even bother to try to see this in the theater or rent the DVD or Blu-ray. I knew that I wasn't going to like what I saw. And sure enough, I didn't. And I even forgot, the ending where Superman's killed. Like I said, I forgot a few days later that Superman had even been killed because I felt nothing out of that. It wasn't until Justice League came out that I realized, hey, wait a minute, Superman was killed in the last movie. Because that's how forgettable this was to me. So let's move on. We're already 2 or 3 pages in. We have another half-star review from November 17th of 2019. This was terrible. No build-up to why two orphans hate each other. Nothing, just snips. It's as you watch the thing. The only good thing was Wonder Woman. Everything else was crap, and I love Batman. Yeah, and it was very disappointing and contrived the way that Lex Luthor's character introduced Batman and Superman in their alter ego form. He introduced Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent together, and he did it in a way kind of winking at the camera, telling the audience that he knew who both of them are, and that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't fit with the classic Superman. It doesn't fit with the comics. It doesn't fit with even the movie to have Lex Luthor somehow know who both of them are and be excited to introduce them. I'm sorry, but it's completely stupid. It was break the fourth wall kind of stupid on top of it. Half a star. I hated this movie. It was so bad. I need to throw up. I'll agree, but I didn't throw up. It was just largely forgettable to me. Maybe unconsciously I just wanted to wipe it out of my mind. But I just kind of completely forgot about this and where it ended at the end. It just went into my brain and just like died in there somewhere. 2.5 stars, November 9th, 2019. This movie is full of everything and it is all over the place. I did not understand some of the things. How does everyone blame Superman for killing who are killed by bullets? Everything is spoiled in the trailer. Doomsday would be an amazing twist, but no, they had to spoil it. Batman v Superman staff is good, but the Martha thing makes no sense. It would make sense if that was about to be the first kill ever. High Tops Films made a good video about, okay, this guy's kind of rambling on about stuff. But the point here is that it doesn't make a lot of logical sense. Again, I say going into this, you should have known this wouldn't make a lot of logical sense, even in the comic book sense. It's just like to me, this strikes as just a marketing ploy. This was just Zack Snyder, marketing himself and his vision of Superman and Batman, and it wasn't supposed to make a lot of sense. It was just him selling the idea, and he didn't have a very well thought out idea, but he just wanted to sell it anyway, and it was very forgettable to me. It had also stuff that the stuff that stuck out to me, in particular, the dark visions of Superman, with people worshiping him. It was like that was supposed to go somewhere, but was just thrown in there, and Zack Snyder didn't even know what to do with it. And it's funny. That's like the one thing that sticks out to me. When I forgot a lot of this film, the only thing I didn't forget was the dream sequences where Superman is like being worshipped by some kind of weird military cult or something in these dream sequences. And that actually was memorable to me, image wise, but the rest of the film was completely forgettable. And that's a complete fail because those dream sequence things didn't mean anything or go anywhere. And even in Justice League, meant nothing, went nowhere. So if it was supposed to mean something, I'm sorry, but it didn't work out. Zack Snyder failed. And it's regrettable because I really talked up his genius visuals in the movie Sucker Punch. But in this, it's just like he becomes an idiot again and he fails. Half a star. This is the worst Batman movie I have ever seen, and I saw Batman and Robin in 1997. Well, yeah, I'll agree somewhat. The Batman and Robin movie from 1997, I did a rotten review on that. It's laugh out loud funny. It's so over the top and stupid you can enjoy it as a comedy, but this one, no, it's very forgettable. And I don't think I gave a star rating here. I'll give a star rating before we get too much further. I will say this is like 1.5 stars. It doesn't get to 2 stars for me. It's 1.5. I think it had a few cool visuals, but again, they didn't mean anything. So I'm going to say it's not even 2 stars. It's 1.5 stars for me. But let's move on. November 1st, 2019, 2.5 stars. Boring, puzzled. A film that is limited and takes refuge in one of a few subjects, is usually scattered, without comedy, and sometimes we do not know what is happening. Yeah, I'll say the final battle, the real dark final battle with Doomsday, I kind of knew what was happening but didn't care and almost didn't know in a few parts, and I didn't know what was happening with those weird dream sequences. They went nowhere. What did it mean? What was the point of it? I don't know. It was visually cool, but it was puzzling that I didn't know what was going on there. So I'll agree. 1.5 star. Honestly, I nearly fell asleep in the cinema. It's just boring. Yes, it did have some okay bits, but it's very hard to get into, and my favorite part was when Wonder Woman showed up at the end. It had some potential to be good, but I can't help but feel that was squandered. Even the Wonder Woman showing up didn't really work because we hadn't seen her in anything else. We didn't have an origin story. Yeah, we knew who she was from other materials, other movies, the TV show, etc., but it just didn't work because we didn't feel anything. Yes, you had Wonder Woman fighting, but you could have dropped anybody else in. Hell, you could have dropped Iron Man in and it would have been just as effective because it wouldn't have meant anything. It's just for cool visuals and the fight was very dark, and Wonder Woman was shown to be very powerful, but yet it didn't have any emotional impact because she was just kind of thrown in, like taking an action figure of her and throwing her into the mix, and it did nothing for me. Half a star, October 30th, 2019. Martha's scene is like the worst thing I've ever seen in a movie. Yeah, it's just like the only way Zack Snyder could somehow link these characters and get them to stop fighting each other. He didn't put very much thought into this, or if he did and this was the best he had, then I want to know how he did Sucker Punch and made the visuals on that work. And I don't know. I just don't get it. Even Man of Steel, as long and drawn out and boring as the action at the end of it wasn't as nonsensical as this is. This had like nonsense in it. 1.5 stars, October 28th, 2019. This is what Christopher Nolan's fun, much fear. Yeah, I don't know. It's like Zack Snyder was trying to make it dark. He literally did. But it's not emotionally dark. It's just visually dark. That's not what we mean by Christopher Nolan making the Dark Knight dark. That's not what we meant. Dark Knight's not supposed to be just it's dark. It's not supposed to be just nighttime. It's thematically dark. But for some reason, Snyder thought you could just make it dark, and that was what the secret was. Again, it's weird because in Sucker Punch, I have to say it came across visually genius. In this, it comes across retarded. 1.5 stars, October 25th. Okay, all I have to say about this movie is at least the part where Wonder Woman shows up is awesome, but everything else sucks. These reviews about how great Wonder Woman is in this are from 2019, right? So they've seen the actual standalone Wonder Woman film, and I think that colors their perception of it. If they didn't have that, if they had reviewed this, before the Wonder Woman film, I think they wouldn't have mentioned that she was all that exciting in this movie because she really doesn't do anything in this movie. 1.5 stars, October 22nd. What should have been a juggernaut entry had very little substance. Snyder is undoubtedly an amazing visual director, but in terms of being a storyteller is quite lacking. The ultimate cut flows a lot better and fills in some of the plot holes, but considering a 20-minute dream sequence world building scene not being omitted for the theatrical cut, where scenes that drive the immediate plot are cut out, it's plain to see that Snyder wanted to make a Justice League movie, and yeah, it's like he was in a rush to get to Justice League. This was just there to get you to Justice League. That's all he cared about. That's all Warner Brothers seemed to care about. The MCU, before they had their first Avengers movie, they had several other movies. They didn't just make two and then just throw in their Avengers. No, we had quite a lot of looks at the other characters involved in the Avengers before they tried to make Avengers movie. And the first one, Iron Man, it wasn't designed to spawn off a whole franchise. It just was popular and it worked out that way. This was just a rush to get to Justice League, and then as we know, Justice League failed. It financially failed, and it deserved to fail, but that's, further on to another episode of this where we won't get into that too deeply here. Let's move on to another 2.5 star review, October 20th. Would have been a great movie if they had better writing. Movie went too fast and did not know how to stick to one subject. Keep it to the title and slowly build up to the next villain. Actors were just fine. Script and plot needed help. Script and plot needed to be taken out and shot. But let's move on. 3 stars. This movie has good moments but has bad moments too. Yeah, but 1 star, 1.5 stars. Half a star, big, ugly Batman win, silly plot that gives no fun. Yeah, bad English, but I get the point. There's no fun to be had here. 2.5 stars. This review is based only on the ultimate cut, so this movie is pretty much half of a decent to good movie. It is as horrible as people say, though. In my opinion, no. The visuals are fantastic, the action is great, the soundtrack will make you moist if you're a Hans Zimmer fan, and most of the acting we don't talk about. Jesse Eisenberg is good, but yes, the story and writing are both a mess. It's more of a Justice League prologue rather than its own thing, and some of the motivations for Batman, yeah, like I said, it's just to get to Justice League, like just to barely put enough effort here to get us to Justice League. Complete fail, and this ultimate cut they're talking about, I don't know what it is. I haven't seen it. I suspect that if I watched it, I would just be upset that I wasted my time because I haven't seen anybody talking about any ultimate cut except in these Rotten Tomato reviews. I've heard a lot of people talk about this film online. Haven't heard about any ultimate cut, so I'm guessing it wouldn't help it any. 3 stars, October 14th. I think this movie was okay. Ben Affleck was a great as Batman, but Henry Cavill was very worst as Superman, and I think the story was not so interesting, and it was a bad idea to put in Wonder Woman to this movie because she is not connected to the story. So the movie was fine. We have a couple of bad ideas, but we have also a good idea like the fight of Batman versus Superman. This person's all over the place with their weird English. It looks like an AI wrote this review. Maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But, they brought up one thing. Wonder Woman didn't need to be in this. You could have dropped in literally an MCU character. You could have dropped Captain America into this and it wouldn't have helped it or hurt it. It would have been more of a WTF, right? But, yeah, Wonder Woman was just thrown in here like a kid would throw an extra action doll in at the final fight. It had no purpose. 3 stars, October 14th, annoying disappointment. 2 stars, poor script and unnecessarily elongated plot. Well, let's see. Running time, 2 hours. Oh, my God. 2 hours, 31 minutes. I had no idea. I forgot that it was this long. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I agree. This was 2 hours, 31 minutes. not much happened here. Wow. I completely forgot the running time was that bad. Wow. So let's move on. 2.5 stars. It looked epic, but it was not. I don't even think it looked epic. It was very dark. 4 stars. I'm not reading it. 5 stars. Not reading it. Why would I waste my time? But wow, that running time, I forgot it was that long. And I thought Man of Steel had a long running time. 1 star, October 5th. After watching Joker, this movie has so many plot holes. Yeah, people have seen Joker and then they're going back to this, and wow, you're going to be really disappointed. Let's continue on. 0.5 star, October 4th. Joyless, gray, and filled to the brim with contempt for the original source material. It's without a doubt one of the worst, if not the worst, superhero films ever made. I don't think it's that bad, but it's like Zack Snyder, Man of Steel, and this are just not the characters we know. They're like his weird interpretation of it. And he needs to stop. Really, he does. 1.5 star, October 4th. Personally, I dislike Batman killing. Also, it doesn't make sense if Batman has tech gadgets and no problem killing. Why wouldn't all his gadgets be lethal? Why fist fight at all? Besides personal disappointment, the movie is a sloppy mess of themes and forced plot lines and future movie setup. Even Martha couldn't save this. Yeah, you bring up something interesting in this review. Batman, this is classic Batman. He's known for doing a lot of stuff, and all the stuff he has to do, he does it without killing anybody. That's part of Batman. That's his character. That's who he is. That's who he was in The Dark Knight. And yet in this, yeah, he's straight up killing. And he doesn't have any problem with it. This is not Batman. Just like this is Snyder's version of Batman. He's doing the same thing to Batman that he did in Man of Steel to Superman. He just pissed on it and made his own version and put them in the costume and called it good. And it's offensive to Batman fans. It really is. 0.5 star, October 3rd. I would rather be killed than watching this again. That's pretty strong there. You might want to double think on that one. Let's continue on. 2 stars, October 2nd. No one asked for this. We wanted a Man of Steel 2 movie. If you watched this in theaters, especially in 3D, you'll feel like you just burned your money away. Wasted such a great villain who could have fought Superman later in another DC movie. DC still needed to do character development on the Man of Steel series, which I thought was fun and very entertaining. Well, I'll be disagreeing with you on that, but let's say you did enjoy the Superman in Man of Steel. You're right. We had one movie, he wasn't really characterized that well, and then all of a sudden you're putting him with Batman, and it doesn't do him any favors. But I completely disagree that Man of Steel was anything redeemable. That's not Superman, and that's not Superman here, and that's not Batman here. I'm sorry, but it's not. So this is Snyder just making his version and putting his action figures together like a kid does in his sandbox and thinking he knows more about the comic book characters than everybody else because it's his sandbox, at least for the time being. He needs to just stop. Yeah. 1 star, October 1st. With this one, I think I'm done with the DC Universe for now. Could be, but you know, Aquaman was enjoyable. Wonder Woman was good. Notice how I don't say Aquaman was good, but I say it's enjoyable. That's because, and I'm not going to do a rotten review on Aquaman, but I'll just flat out tell you, Aquaman was very enjoyable to me. I saw it in the theater. I saw it in IMAX as a comic book movie. It was like right up there at the top. But as a film, as an enjoyable film, as something meaningful in a comic book franchise, no, it wasn't all that. It was disappointing in that way. But I'll tell you, when I walked out of the theater, out of Aquaman, I felt really good. And when I walked out of Man of Steel, I felt like shit. So, yeah, you can see which one is more popular and why one made a lot more money than the other. With Batman v Superman, I wasn't in the theater. I'm glad I didn't put myself through it. But just watching this for free on a screen somewhere, yeah, I could have walked away at any time. There wasn't anything there. 1 star, yeah. Let's see, 2 stars, a disappointing result. While most of the cast is good and there are some interesting ideas and visually amazing action sequences, Batman v Superman is a mess, a slog, dull, boring movie. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Half a star, worst Batman of all time and worst movie of all time. Yeah, it would feel that way. Somebody that's a fan of an actual real Batman character, knows the character well, they would consider this the worst of all time because it's not Batman. It's Snyder's weird version. 2 stars, September 23rd. The film that any producer in Hollywood was too scared to make was made, and by the looks of it, they should have waited a little longer. For its credit, the best thing about this film is Affleck's Batman and the new horror angle Batman gets. The rest of the film is insufferable with its length and overblown plot. Yeah, they're bringing up something I did earlier. When you put Batman and Superman together, you got a big problem because you have to be very careful how you set everything up. You have to be very careful and meticulous how you set this up so that it's believable and suspenseful, where you have Batman fighting Superman. Man, that's tough. And Zack Snyder was in a hurry. He just wanted to get to Justice League. He put very little thought into this, and it shows. That's why this is such crap. Let's move on. 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, September 21st, 2019. Film about a great clash between man and God, but this clash is seen very little since it ends in 30 seconds to focus altogether on the greater evil as if nothing had happened. Moreover, the introduction of Wonder Woman does not make much sense for the purposes of the plot or those of the usefulness in combat. So although it has many flaws and some inconsistency in the plot, the movie is all great and the special effects are fantastic. I'll largely agree there, but it has to be 1.5 stars. And if you're going to put Wonder Woman in for all the ridiculous non-meaning that it had, why not just stick everybody else from Justice League in there and call it a Justice League film? Because that final battle was just pointless. Wonder Woman was there in a pointless way. Why not just stick the Flash in there and have him show up, and stick Cyborg in there and stick Aquaman in there too? Because we knew nothing about any of those characters any more than we did about Wonder Woman, and yet they stuck Wonder Woman in there. Why not just stick them all in there? Put them in one gigantic final battle, and then the fanboys that give this like a 5-star review can just like cream in their pants over this, because that's all they care about is those action CGI fight sequences. The rest of us want an actual real movie with tension, with something to walk out of the theaters feeling good about the happy ending, or even a non-happy ending that made us think. We want to get something out of this, and nobody gets anything out of this ridiculous waste of film footage. So I'll move on before I talk myself to death. More 4 and 5-star reviews, ridiculous. Here's a half a star from September 17th. Disaster, bad, ugly, dump. Only Batman and Superman suits are good in this terrible movie. 2 stars, September 15th. Not English, but I'll take their word on it. I'm still saying 1.5 stars, doesn't quite reach 2. Half a star from September 12th. Martha, this single word has ruined the whole movie. Yeah, it's really stupid. Really, really stupid. You can just call this the Martha scene. Just like in the Indiana Jones franchise, we call it the refrigerator scene. We call this the Martha scene in this franchise. 1 star, September 10th, 2019. 99% unenjoyable garbage. I don't blame the actors. The poor fools tried. The cops looking for Batman, and Batman fights bad guys. Scenes are the only thing worth watching. Not even rift tracks can make this thing tolerable. I don't get the reference there, but I'll agree. 1 star is acceptable for this. Half a star, not English. Let's move on. We're several pages in, and yet I've seen so many 5 and 4-star reviews. It's just kind of disheartening. 1.5 stars, September 9th. No, bad movie. The costume effects and Wonder Woman bits were very good. Affleck's pulled off a Batman. I wish I could see more of it, but the story was bad and the characterization was worse. Did anyone bother to try and understand the source material, or was Snyder trying to make Watchmen 2? Who knows what he was trying to do. His Watchmen movie was good. I liked it. Totally disconnected to this stuff, but he did good there. What was he trying to do? He was just trying to he just wanted to do Justice League. That's all that was on his mind. He probably would have just abandoned this and walked away and started in on Justice League and not even finished this film if he had had the option to do it. But he just had to bang this out first. Completely bad. September 6th, 2 stars. Way too much going on. I feel like they took one story and just had that one concept and then slammed in like 50 other stories into it. Story was all over the place and Lex sucked. Just blah. Yeah, Jesse Eisenberg, Mark Zuckerberg, Lex Luthor. What else is there to say? 3 stars, September 6th. A very mixed bag of good and bad, mostly bad. Mostly forgettable, too. Most of this I forgot a day later. 1.5 stars, September 4th. This movie had a huge chance to make a great historical mark in the comic book series, or movies. It failed to deliver what the world has been waiting for. Superman and Batman finally together on the big screen against each other. The turning point in this movie was so horrible that it made me laugh. Again, it's the Martha scene. Just call it the Martha scene. That's enough. Wow, 5 stars, 5-star fanboys. Half a star, August 23rd. There are simply so many things that were wrong about this movie that it would be easier to write a short list of the things they did well and leave it at that. But why bother? Yeah, why bother? Because it's completely forgettable. 1.5 stars, August 23rd. It's a hot mess, basically. Very sloppy writing and filming. I still don't understand why they were fighting, and I don't think Zack Snyder does either. Yeah, he just had to get them to fight because that's what the title was. It's just marketing the title. It's just a stepping stone on the way to Justice League. Justice League was just as bad, really. Except this had that Martha scene in it. Half a star, August 20th. The single worst film I have ever seen. The characters are flat and the plot is ridiculous. Batman and Superman end up arguing for some ridiculous reason, like one of the insulted the other one's mom or something. The whole film smacks of being brainstormed in some boardroom. Truly awful. Well, I think the film actually tries to show that Bruce Wayne doesn't like Superman because Superman killed people that worked for Bruce Wayne. You know, in the big scene at the end of Man of Steel, a lot of casualties. So he considers Superman to be the bad guy, an out-of-control alien that just doesn't give a shit what, you know, what humans get in his way. That part actually kind of works, but the movie doesn't really continue that. It turns into a really contrived, stupid reason why they need to fight each other. That would have worked, but Snyder doesn't know how to stick with that, and, you know, that part's completely forgotten at the end. Half a star, 1 star, Batman vs. Superman is pure garbage. Jesse Eisenberg's performance as Lex Luthor is terrible. It seems more like the Joker. The CGI is ugly and cheap. Yeah, Eisenberg, why they cast him, I don't know. They wanted somebody young, I think. You know, traditionally we've gotten Lex Luthor characters that are old. We got a Kevin Spacey. We got Gene Hackman. These characters were all over the age of 40 when they played Lex Luthor. Then we get like a teenage-looking Lex Luthor, and you know that worked in Smallville, and it was you know, a bald Lex Luthor, a 20-something Lex Luthor in Smallville, and it worked very well for that time and place and for that tone of Superman material. But it doesn't work here, having like some Mark Zuckerberg-looking. Come on, Lex Luthor, Mark Zuckerberg, Jesse Eisenberg, those things don't belong together in my mouth at the same time, and yet they just came out of my mouth together like that. It's almost criminal. August 18, 2019, 40 minutes in and I was still confused. It doesn't even have a decent ending to redeem itself. No, it doesn't. Forgettable, dark action at the end. 2 stars, August 16th. Warner Brothers brought this upon themselves. Yeah. 1 star, August 10th. Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent had literally no reason to fight each other in the film. Bruce Wayne just wanted to kill Superman for a reason that didn't make sense, and Lex Luthor wanted Batman and Superman to fight for no reason either. It didn't make any sense. Yeah, you know, when you look at Luthor's motivation, why did he want them to fight each other? No real reason. He just wanted the chaos or something, but that's not Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor is not just a chaos type guy. That would, like another reviewer pointed out, fit more along the lines of the Joker than of, you know, the Joker would want chaos for the sake of chaos. But Lex Luthor, no, he was motivated by profit and by power. Profit and power, and he wouldn't get that from just having Superman and Batman wreck each other. It doesn't add up, does it? Doesn't fit. 1 star, August 1st, hot garbage, nice special effects, that's about it. Any movie with a budget can have nice special effects, so Irrelevant. Half a star, August 1st, big waste of time, do not watch. Half a star is like a kick on the urethra. 2 stars, why you gotta do this to the characters I love, Zack Snyder. It really hurts me to see this. The best thing about this is the score by Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer. Those two work wonders together. 2 stars, it's just so awful. So, so awful. Half a star, to put it delicately, yikes. 3 stars, July 23rd. In what was probably the most anticipated comic book film of all time, we instead got an okay film that disappoints in all the wrong spots, and when it does get good, it's never great. Cavill is a great Clark Kent Superman, but with the writing and direction he's been given, I feel like he's been left in the dust, which is really disappointing. Surprisingly, Ben Affleck is a great Batman, and I really want to see more of him. Gal Gadot gives a great Wonder Woman intro, and the visuals are really well done. You know, it looks like it'll be a long shot if Cavill comes back for Superman, and a long shot if they get Affleck back for Batman. So it's doubtful we'll see this mistake made twice. They might just have to reboot this whole thing. Who knows? 1 star, possibly the worst comic book movie ever made. 1 star, I had low expectations. It was even worse than I thought it would be. Let's continue on. I like these 1 star reviews. 5 stars. I'm not gonna read that. 2 stars, July 17th. It's pretty good, but very overcrowded with plots and not enough Batman vs Superman, but still an okay movie. 2 stars. It is a boring movie with no plot driving the story. Rating 4.2 or rating 42. I don't know. Maybe they think they're on IMDb or Metacritic. Here you can just say 2 stars. 2.5 stars. I didn't appreciate the fever dream sequences in this movie. Felt like a 3-hour movie in the end. Ben Affleck does a great job as Batman and Bruce Wayne. Henry Cavill seemed very dull and non-convincing. Yeah, what's the point of those fever dream sequences? They didn't seem to mean anything. We'll never know, I guess. 2 stars, July 11th. Intriguing plot that could have been a truly great movie, but is ruined by the excessive slow motion throughout the movie and the awful Martha twist that comes off as funny instead of dramatic. Yeah, 1.5 stars, July 7th. I hated this movie, not worth the time. Both characters do not feel like they should. Batman feels more like a serial killer. Yeah, he kills, so it's not Batman, is it? 2 stars, July 4th. Not English. Half a star, July 3rd. Absolutely terrible. 1 star. Worst movie ever because Superman died at the end. 2 stars. It passed time. Not as good as people anticipated. Yeah, it was quite horrible. 3 stars, June 28th. Ridiculous plot contrivances aside, the battle between Batman and Superman feels personal. Their final showdown is cathartic, and the movie's resolution is palatable. Wow, that's a whole lot of praising this movie that doesn't deserve any of that, and I completely disagree. You saw a different movie, apparently. Half a star. So many bad movies out there I don't care to rate and comment, but what they did to Batman here is atrocious. This is simply the worst movie you can find with Batman. Hated it. Yeah, that's because it's not Batman. This is Snyder's weird version. It doesn't match Batman at all. Half a star, June 24th. Nonsense. It seems I have aged out of the current movie demographic. No. Don't look at the reviews on Rotten Tomatoes and think they're serious. A lot of them aren't real reviews, and they're giving it 5 stars just because they like to see action figures slammed together in superhero costumes. Don't let it get you down. I'm here to tell you that this movie is trash. You didn't age out of anything. I'm quite old, and I say this movie is trash. And if I were 20-something, I would say this movie is trash. But as it were, it just wasn't around when I was 20-something. I had to bag on different superhero movies. 3 stars, July or June 23rd. It's too much for one film altogether. A reliance on less CGI would have been, well, no. You're not going to get less CGI. That's what superhero movies are nowadays. But too much, yeah. You dropped Wonder Woman in just to put her in the scene at the end, and why? It had a lot of stuff, Doomsday, Lex Luthor, Wonder Woman, yet this wasn't Justice League. It was just a whole lot of nonsense, wasn't it? 1.5 stars, June 20th. I swear it's just rotten. If it wasn't for the salvation that Wonder Woman gives on this movie, Batman v Superman would just be a bunch of crap. No, she didn't save it. It's still a bunch of crap. 2.5 stars. This film doesn't make any sense at all. It's the writer's fault for killing Superman. It could have been Wonder Woman to throw the spear to kill Doomsday. She is wrong as Superman, and what to happen to Lex Luthor, the villain of Superman, the smartest man on Earth, creates Doomsday. Yeah, not English, obviously. They're saying it doesn't make sense. I agree. 1.5 stars, June 18th. I've tried to finish this movie literally 6 times, but I always end up falling asleep or just giving up. I can sympathize with that. 3 stars, June 17th. Ben Affleck displays his acting capabilities by taking The Dark Knight to a whole new level. No. Whereas his part of the story is thrilling, Henry Cavill is left with nothing to do but wait for the grim knight to find him. The result is a short fight to the death, followed by a battle against an unstoppable monster. It was too much too soon. Yeah, it's just like Zack Snyder couldn't figure out how to get them against each other, then bring them back together and have them fight Doomsday. I think Doomsday was just brought in to try to get them on the same side at the end. He just couldn't figure out how to make it to work. He was just so focused on Justice League. That's all he wanted to get to. This was just like him trying to slam it together and get out of it, I guess. 1 star, June 16th. When I saw the film in the theater, I slept. Oh man, I feel sorry for you that they got you into the theater on this. 3 stars, tremendously slow. The end, pulling bad. The best fight scene between Batman and Superman, I liked a lot of Man of Steel. I disagree that there was any good fight scene between Batman and Superman. When you think about it, how could there be? Even if you assume that Batman somehow has these kryptonite weapons, which he did, right? Would it be believable? I mean, come on. The only reason that they had a fight scene was because Superman just didn't want to fight him, didn't want to actually do anything to him. It would be like a 3-year-old, coming to kill you, and you're just like, oh, please, and you're just like pushing him away and hoping his mom shows up to find him. That's what you get when you try to put Batman and Superman together. Even if Snyder had been focused on this, I don't think he could have pulled it off. 0.5 star, the worst movie I've ever seen. 1 star, not English. More 5 stars, more 5 stars. 2.5 stars, June 10th. Seeing 2 of the most iconic superheroes of all time duking it out on the big screen might seem like a super fun thrill ride, and while this movie is very action-packed, has visual splendor and emotions, and boasts very fine performances from Henry Cavill, Ben Affleck, Amy Adams, and Gal Gadot, the storyline feels rushed and unpolished, and the dark visual style and tone of the film, plus a very mediocre screenplay and weak pacing, Dawn of Justice ends up being a massive disappointment in the long run. That's a whole lot of wording to try to pretend like you're a film critic when you could have just said, this movie sucks. 1.5 star at the most. Let's go down 3 stars, June 9th. The action delivers, but this thing's weakness is that it takes a long time to set up a weak story. That's really immaterial when people just came to see the fight. The second half of this movie is awesome, but yeah, the first half seriously screws it up. Yeah, in summary, maybe if they had just made it 2 hours of, I don't know, Zack Snyder repeating what he did at the end of Man of Steel and just having a solid 1 hour or 1.5 hour film of nothing but Batman and Superman fighting each other and forget about a story or reasons, just do an all-out thing where they destroy Gotham and Metropolis all over again. Maybe they destroy both Gotham and Metropolis, like blow up Chicago and blow up New York City and kill even more people in the process. And fanboys would just go to the theater and eat that stuff up and just put 5-star reviews as far as the eye can see on Rotten Tomatoes. And this would have a 100% audience score. And the critics would probably give it a negative critic meter score if they could. But regardless, it has a 63% on the audience score. 233,807 reviews, if you can call them that. Get this out of, get this out of Rotten somehow. I don't know how. This looks rotten just when you look at the actual artwork here with Batman in his lighted eye suit facing off against Superman. I'm sorry, it doesn't work. It's not believable in the slightest. Complete garbage, and I'm going to have to leave it here. I'm tiring myself out arguing against it. So here we have it. It deserves to be rotten. That's my final word, and I will see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.